Travelers on the Omnibus occasionally touches on mature subject matter with mature language. As such, the audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, a field trip through nerd and pop culture. I'm Jody Kite.
I'm James McCarthy.
I'm Bray Davis.
I'm Ethan Skinner. What happened to your voice?
I'm Ethan Skinner. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? That's good.
Homestar Runner from Homestar Runner.
Wait, I'm getting a call. Okay, Ethan. Hey, I know we're recording on Valentine's and you're with Bianca. How's everything going?
I've discovered the power of the breeding pen.
Okay, well I'm gonna leave that for another time. You have a good one. Bye bye. Okay.
Welcome to Travelers on the Omnibus, everyone.
That's-
Ethan is out being a good husband, future husband, and going on
They ate
Valentine's.
at Giuseppe's in Biloxi.
They were going to eat somewhere else.
They were literally right down the road
20
from
feet
you.
from my house.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus.
They were going to eat somewhere else, but that didn't happen.
They wanted to go to the board game peddler, and I told them they're open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I do wish them luck with that.
Well,
business.
yeah, it's like an incredibly tiny space.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, that makes sense.
There you go.
So I'm going to start with me. So what I've been doing this week, I've been playing a game that came out like a year or so ago called Rollerdome.
Okay.
And it's, Jay, do you know what that game is?
Yeah, that was a 70s movie starring James Caan.
That's
That was
Rollerball.
Rollerball.
Okay,
sir.
no, then I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was also a 2004 movie starring that one dude from American Pie. No, not that dude.
The other one.
Not that dude. the other guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. I know that he dated what's her name? What's her name from Dawson's Creek?
Not that, what's her name?
Katie Holmes.
The other
No,
one.
Katie Holmes.
Yeah.
I remember he
Katie
dated
Holmes,
Katie
okay.
Holmes
I did
before
not
Katie
know
Holmes
that.
The thing
dated.
about that, I remember when that
Crazy Man.
Rollerball movie like came out, and they spent a lot of money promoting this movie, and it did not do well.
Yeah. I actually liked that movie when I was younger. I had terrible taste.
Yeah.
It's a stupid fun movie. They do part of it completely in
I thought you were going to say smell-o-vision.
It takes place at night, but they do night vision for a
sweet.
good 5-6 minutes of that movie.
Sweet.
It is so stupid.
It looks like
It is so stupid.
I love a B quality Hollywood movie
Yeah.
with all the money and the actors are there like they're normally okay actors, but the script is terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Or the concept. Jupiter ascending anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rollerball.
Well,
I didn't say-
the Wachowskis only take big swings.
That's true.
And,
but
if
tell
you
us
take
about-
was that a Wachowski movie?
That was a Wachowski movie.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Let's
but
talk about roller power.
Rollerdrome.
Rollerdrome.
Rollerdrome is sort of like it uses that concept, but it's a little bit different. It's like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater for the original consoles that it came out on, like the PS1 and the N64, but with guns.
Oh, okay.
And so you're doing like grinds and kick flips. You're on
So
roller
it was
skates.
BMX Triple X.
Yeah. It's but good.
That was almost Dave Mira's
Yeah.
BMX Triple X, and
Right.
Dave Mira said no.
Yeah.
I actually really like the Dave Mira series.
and the Matt Hoffman games
I liked
too.
it more than I liked Tony Hawk, and I love Tony Hawk, but like I liked it way more than Tony
My
Hawk.
favorite was the Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX.
I don't think I ever played that.
That
one.
one's really good. But anyway, Rollerdrome, yeah, you're doing all these like super awesome roller skating moves on like old school roller skates, but you're doing grinds and you're doing 360s and 720s while you're also shooting and dodging snipers and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So it's fun, and it's free this month on PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
If you have a regular baseline PlayStation account, you can get it for free. I suggest you do so. That's all I've been doing is playing Rollerdrome. It's been a fun experience. It's a very fun, action-paced indie game. So, Jay, what you been up to?
I got my Arachnarok spider, so I'm happy. It's very good.
Arachnarok and roll.
I haven't put him together yet, but I can't wait to. I found out that so the way I'm building him is the web spinner shaman on top of the Arachnarok spider because I say just go full on spider. I found out that's the way you get the web spinner shaman on foot. They don't sell him individually.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You either have to like magnetize so that you can put him on the spider and then put him on a little base and then you have one or the other.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to buy another one. But they were only $65 compared to some of the other centerpiece models I've seen. So I may go back and I may dip for a second spider and like do a whole
I've
spider
seen like
goblin.
a lot of like a big like multiple spiders used in that. If you want, like I have I have all of the stuff to magnetize.
I've got
are.
magnets and Dremel, so I'm good on my side. It's just whether or not I want to go through the.
I've got
the
what's
stuff
that
of
thing
it.
called, the something stick.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's like it makes drilling and magnetizing like so much easier.
But reading through the rules, I like this one thing about the giant spiders. They can be held in reserve and come out of nowhere, and then they can go back in reserve and then come out of another spot of nowhere.
Just like a spider would.
Yeah, just like a spider just coming down from the ceiling, just eating people. So I kind of like the idea, but it's still the 9-inch rule.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's like I would hate to throw that thing out there and it not be able to charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd just be bad. But it leaves at the end of the combat phase, so you can have him away in one turn and then bring him back in the next turn.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I kind of hope for that, but so that's going to go there. And let's see. So there was that. I'm about to pick up Aventus Firestrike to add to my Stormcast army. We found out that if you build Aventus, you can also have enough parts to build the Lord Arcanum on a just a regular thing.
Okay.
So why couldn't you do that for me with the spider and my goblins? Goddammit! But it's okay if you do the Lord Arcanum on Tarlon, you can't do that. So go with the option that gives you 2 models. I'm just saying that right there. So that was good on that, and I enjoyed the Super Bowl, the game. My job did not allow me to enjoy the Super Bowl, but I can't go into that. But the game I thought was a really good This is the second overtime game.
I heard it
in
was
the history
down
of
to the
Super Bowl.
wire.
Oh yeah, the last play ended it.
There was 3 seconds left.
3 seconds left in overtime. But though, if the overtime clock had ended, they still get, because it was their first possession. They were still able to finish out the possession, so there wasn't really kind of a rush to that, from what I understand.
Right.
But yeah, with 3 seconds left to go, flipped it right to him, and so we didn't have to worry about a second overtime. Yeah, but no, it was a really good game. I thought it was very well put together football. I think it was very good offense and very good defense. It was in that between 20 and 30 points era, which I think is where you have good play on both sides. I was happy about that. I loved the schoolyard first touchdown that happened where they flipped San Francisco. Their Brock Purdy, who's their quarterback, flipped it to one of their wide receivers. Then he just chucks this ball across the other end of the field to Christian McCaffrey, who is pound for pound today the best running back in football, and he just took off and he just ran with it, and it was just that was
like a long run interception there?
No, it was
okay.
It was a completed pass.
I don't know who's on
Clearly,
what team.
yes, I know.
I don't sports ball, Jay.
Yeah, Roller Doom that game.
Rollerdome.
Rollerdome. Okay, so
you act like you don't play video games, dog.
I don't play roller cross. It's the first I'd ever heard of it. I literally called it rollerball.
Yeah, you did.
I mean, it's just the way it is. But
continue on.
That part was pretty good. There was a 56-yard field goal, in the Super Bowl, which I think is the longest field goal in Super Bowl
impressive.
History. That was the Kansas City kicker. I can't remember his name right now. My apologies, sir.
That's my job, is not to remember the football players' names.
But to be honest, nobody remembers kickers.
Yeah,
that's true.
I remember Morton Anderson because he was the first kicker I ever knew in the New Orleans Saints, and that was it. But there you go there. But yeah, just overall, just an absolutely fun game.
Nice.
That's good.
I was glad for that personally, because you never want those things to be if you're a fan of football, you don't want to watch necessarily a blowout. So, but that was pretty much my weekend.
All right, cool deal, Brady. Since there's no Ethan here, I'm going straight to you.
Yeah, so I spent most of my weekend and the day I had off yesterday watching movies. I've watched quite a few of them. I'll just go in the order that I watched them. So I watched this movie called Sanctuary. Stars Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott. And Christopher Abbott really likes to do these movies where he is a pathetic little piece of shit who has a really weird encounter with a woman in a hotel room.
That's very specific.
I'd have 2 nickels, but it's weird that it happened twice. Yeah, it was he is like an heir to like a like a hotel chain empire. And he has this dominatrix that sees him, and he's breaking it off, and things don't go as planned, and shit gets really weird. It was an all right movie. It was weird. Like the musical choices were like really weird. It kind of threw me off. But
Ethan, when you're watching that movie, what is your opinion?
I've discovered the power of the breeding pen.
Okay, moving on.
So yeah, that was.
He's not with us, but he's with us.
Yeah.
It's like he's right here.
Yeah.
I think that if you're gonna watch a weird Christopher Abbott movie, watch Possessor. Like that's the better movie that I've seen in the past few years that he stars in. Then after that, I watched a movie called The Passenger. This I just saw it on Amazon Prime, and then for some reason it stuck in my brain, and then I remembered it was because the guys from Red Letter Media talked about it because it's a what's the dude's name? Hold on just a second.
Yeah, because they recently did a Mike and Jay talk about one of his movies, I think, right?
Yeah. Kyle Gallner.
Okay.
They did a thing where they talked about three or four of his movies that came out recently, and then they recently just talked about another one that had come out too. This is a pretty interesting movie. It's this kid named Randy who works at this just shitty fast food / I guess it's a gas station. I don't know. This movie was made very cheaply, and you can tell in some parts.
Right.
And he's kind of like a very meek person, and he gets shit on quite a bit by especially one guy who's like a jock type bully dude. These people are all in like their 20s, and he gets involved when the other quiet coworker of his kind of goes on a rampage, and then he gets kind of stuck with this guy having to drive around while he just like wreaks havoc. The aforementioned passenger, so to speak, but Kyle Gallner plays the quiet guy who kind of blows his shit. It's a very interesting movie. Yeah, I'd say check it out because there's like there's so much tension. Like you can because you never know when the guy is going to like completely lose his shit because you've already seen like him do horrible things. So you know what he's capable of, and just every encounter with every single human being is so tense because you don't know what the fuck is happening, and it's a very interesting movie. I really liked it. It's really good. So check that out. It's on Amazon Prime. It's kind of a weird movie, and it's brutal. I will say, like they spared no expense on at least the special effects. I'll put it that way.
All right.
So, and then I watched to cool down from that. Then I watched this rom-com that's on Amazon Prime called Somebody I Used to Know. It stars Allison Brie. I like her, so I was just like, yeah, I'll watch it. Basically, she runs this like really sleazy reality show, and then it gets canceled. So she goes back to her hometown to just kind of figure out what to do, because like come up with ideas and shit. And she ends up meeting her ex that they broke up a long time ago. She kind of hangs out with him one night and starts getting kind of feelings for her. But then she realizes, oh, he's engaged to be married. Like, in fact, they're getting married in the next few days.
Oh, nice.
And she ends up kind of getting involved with all of that. It's pretty solid. It's not like super funny, but the people are like they're it's weird because in a way it does a whole lot of like tropes for rom-coms, but then it kind of sidesteps some, especially towards the end. And that really like kind of stuck with me. It's fun. It's not like super funny, but it is like just seeing these people. It's interesting enough. The characters are all like fun to watch. So there's at least that. Let me see. Then so yesterday, like I said a while back, I'm trying to watch all of the the Best Picture nominees, or at least as many as I possibly can before the Oscars in March. So I went yesterday because really the only easiest way to see this one movie is to go to see it in the theaters. So I watched American Fiction. It stars Jeffrey Wright, who I love. Like, he's one of those guys, if I see him in something, I'm like, okay, you've got me on board of being interested in watching this. Even if it doesn't look like the premise is interesting to me, he's one of those guys where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna at least try to watch this. He plays this like literature professor, but he's also a writer, and he writes these books about I don't know, he writes these kind of high-minded fiction literature, but his latest book, like nobody's interested in it because they want the quote unquote black book. They want, and
I've seen the trailer for this.
So he ends up like he shit happens at his work, so it's kind of like the last movie where like shit happens and then the guy, he has to go back home, and he gets drunk one night and just writes this like super stereotypical like making fun, like just it's really funny because the scene that where he like starts writing the shit, like they're like the people like come to life and start acting out the scene, and they're like, wait, what do I say next? And he's like, how about this? And then he writes
nice.
It's very funny. And one of the guys is Keith David, so that's always great. But yeah, he writes it, and then he's like, yeah, fuck it, submit it. I'm using a pseudonym, like submit it. And then they actually were like, yeah, we really want this. This is great.
Like, right.
And he's like, oh,
I fucked
okay.
up.
But then he's like, okay, but I need money because like my life's falling apart, and then I need money to help my family. Because shit's happening with them, so I guess I'm just going to pretend to be this guy, and it just keeps spiraling out of control.
Right.
And it's kind of really sitting there here and talking about it is like beyond my ability to do it, but it's a very interesting movie. It's a very funny movie. Sterling K. Brown's in it. He's nominated for supporting actor. He was really good in it. He was hilarious. It's a funny movie. Like this one, I actually like laughed out loud several times, and the ending is like really, really good. I liked it a lot. It's kind of meta, but it's very interesting. But it kind of takes aim at like that. It kind of makes fun of like the idea of like oftentimes like these movies that'll win like Best Picture, are these like movies that are just made to make white people feel good about themselves. You got your Crashes, you've got your Green Books, you've got your Driving Miss Daisies,
right?
Those kind of movies that kind of tackle racism with like kid gloves, or to make it seem like, oh, don't worry, it's not your fault, So it kind of or there's like the idea of like every black movie has to be like tragedy porn, where it's just these terrible things happening to these people,
right? And
it kind of it discusses all of that, and it's very, very nuanced. Like I'm flattening it a lot because I'm just trying to give you the pitch of it. But it was a really good movie. I'm glad that I watched it. I don't think it deserves Best Picture, but it is like a really good movie to check out. So yeah, there's that one. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was there was a game that was on sale for the Switch, and I'd been interested in it because I'd read a little review of it and it looked interesting. It's this game called Worldless. It is kind of this. It's a little bit of a Metroidvania, from what I can tell, but it's not like as heavy as those are, because its central thing is like the story. I don't know what the fuck's happening with the story. It's very kind of abstract. You're just like this glowing dot that's got, and you can see like its little hands that aren't really hands, and then when it goes to fight, it pulls out a sword and a shield. I don't know. There's some kind of like cosmic struggle thing. I don't know it, but it's very it's the look is kind of like if Grease wasn't painted in watercolors, it was painted kind of on a black canvas with like brighter colors. But there is there's exploration, and then there's also the combat is different. Like when you go to fight something, it's 1-on-1, and you have there's a system of almost like a rock paper scissors things. Like one of you is going to go and do your attacks, and the other one's going to go and do your attacks. And right now, there's like a little there's like branches skill branches that you have that you can get new abilities and things like that. But really you have a physical attack, and then you have a magic attack. And sometimes you have like a timer that counts down, and you can go back and forth between the attacks. You can string combos together with like BBB is like a 3 physical attack and something like that. But when they go to attack you have 2 different blocks. You have a magic block and you have a physical block. So you're trying to figure out, and they'll basically give you, before they attack, they'll give you like a clue of like what they're going to do and in what order they're going to do it.
A little quick prompt.
Yeah, like there's a horizontal line is a physical attack. A vertical line flash is like a magic attack, and you have to block those correctly. And you want to try and do perfect blocks because if you just hold down the button, it'll eventually break. Your guard will break.
Right.
But you have these other abilities that you unlock. A lot of them are done differently. Like there was one fight where it was like this 8-armed thing, and then it did like a specific sequence of, okay, it does a physical, then a magic, then a physical, then a magic, and it does it in this exact cadence, and you have to get that cadence right because you have to do perfect blocks on it to defeat it. Like you don't actually attack it. And then there's like a mechanic where you're absorbing them to get basically experience from them, and that's how you upgrade your abilities. But you have to do these button prompts, and you have this meter that you're filling up, and how full it is shows how much of the prompt is shown. If you just get it to the minimum amount and get it on there and say it's a 4-button prompt, it's just going to be question marks, and you just have to guess. But if you can get it filled all the way up with combos and not doing the same move over and over, then it lets it to where you can see everything.
The game punishes you for not thinking
you
outside
want to
the
vary
box.
around, and to actually absorb certain things, you have to use certain moves that they're weak against to get the bar all the way up. It's a very interesting game. I'm liking it so far. Like I said,
Sounds pretty cool.
The story there, I don't know, things are happening, but it's I can't tell what the fuck is going on. But it is it's a very beautiful game, and the gameplay is interesting because you get it is like a Metroidvania where you will get these abilities. Like I have an air dash now, and that means I can get to these certain places. And you have this pressing X does this little echo thing where it'll activate different things. It'll it'll activate a platform or something like that. So you have to air dash, hit the echo, and to drop down the platform to move across.
Are the levels procedurally generated?
No,
or they're not different.
No, there's a map. You can always go to a map, and there's different areas. I've only done really one area right now. There's it seems like they're all different colors. I've done this blue area, and then I'm in this red area now, and I'm gonna do that. But yeah, it's not procedurally generated. No.
Okay.
It's like a Metroidvania where it's a map.
Right.
Because it'll tell you okay, you're in this, and it's not and it's kind of an abstract map. It'll tell you okay, you're in this area. It's blinking. You don't have the thing that you need to get out of this area. There's either an exploration. There's either a circular experience or a diamond shaped experience. And the diamonds, it seems like you get them from defeating enemies and absorbing them, and then the other one you get from basically traversing the area and finding either it's hidden or you have to do certain exploration things or something like that, puzzles and stuff like that. But it's and then there's a line, and okay, here it tells you there's a line that goes down, and then there's a line that goes straight. So you can either find your way down to this other area, or you can go straight, and then it leads to this other area. So, it's all very kind of abstracted. It's an interesting game. I will say it's it's got me so far. So
That sounds pretty cool.
And this one is more like mechanics and how the game works that's driving me. It's not It's not the story because I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right.
Because this thing that's just like lines will come out and talk to you and tell you things or ask you things, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I'm looking at screenshots, and it kind of reminds me of Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah,
like from the artistic.
Yeah, I
side of
remember
things.
that game.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah,
Barry Willow the Wisp kind of.
yeah, like you're literally like a ball of light that's just got like 4 points, which is your feet and your hands. But it's an interesting game. I don't remember if it's still on sale right now.
Right.
I got it for like $10 less. It was like $24, and I got it for $15. So
Nice.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay, cool.
A friend of the show, John Sheldon, advised me tonight that like most of the Yakuza series is on sale on Steam for $60.
Oh wow.
That's a very good deal. Yeah, there's currently a sale going on PlayStation right now too. There's up to 75% on all the indie games for the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I almost got. They've got all of the pixel remasters for the Final Fantasy ones for like $60 or like $50. I can't remember.
That's like
Part of
half
me
off.
wants to buy them again for the Switch.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, especially how classic those are, like those
Right.
are all Nintendo and Super Nintendo
Right,
games.
yeah.
I have them on Steam, which is why I haven't done that. But
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Jay, do we have any feedback?
nothing this week, but passengers, thank you for joining us on the bus this week. If you have any feedback for us, leave it at travelersontheomnibus@gmail.com. Again, that is travelers, 1L on the omnibus @gmail.com. Jody, where else can they get in touch with us?
You can message us directly through our Spotify and also take part in any polls we may or may not have currently, which I don't know if we do.
Oh yeah, every with the
show.
exception of the second episode we ever did, we've had a poll and a question for
Gotcha.
each one of them. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy listening to us and you want to share that to all of your friends, but they don't listen on the same podcasting channels you listen to, we are on Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Saga.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes the first half of our show, and we're going to get right into our main topic. So back in the day, and I'm talking about, for me, back in the 80s, if I wanted to choose a video game or a movie, what you normally got me was the box art, at least the initial response. I don't know about you guys. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. The nowadays, like most of the stuff is like streaming. Excuse me. But back in the day, and we're probably gonna say that so fucking much this one, but you had to like actually go to the store. Now a lot of people remember Blockbuster, but like Blockbuster was actually the thing that killed mom and pop stores. So like, don't have positive nostalgic feelings for Blockbuster,
Right.
please. But you went to the local video store and you walked around for as long as your parents let you, trying
Right.
to decide what movie you're going to watch.
The biggest one before Blockbuster in Ocean Springs was called That Video Place.
Yeah, I think
Which I think is a great title for it.
we had two somehow in Richton, and one of them was Home Video, and the other one was Shannon's Video because the guy's name was Shannon.
Yeah, there was a lot of those also in my hometown as well. There was like about 7 mom and pop stores that were around for at least a handful of years.
Yeah. It's amazing that there were that many in my hometown because my hometown is literally 2 red lights. It's an incredibly small town.
Well, there was a minute where like everybody had a video store, and then a few years later, everyone had a frozen yogurt place.
Yeah.
Because
and then sometimes those two were combined into a home video frozen yogurt shop.
it's very, very, very true.
Or in my case, then after Shannon's closed down, somebody bought all of his stock, an actual relative of mine, and he had it was the videos section, and then in the back he had tanning salons because that was big for
Right.
for that early 2000s.
Oh, it's great. You could like watch a movie while you tan. That'd be great.
You guys want to talk about movies first or video games, or how do you want to do it?
I want
it's
to
however.
celebrate the wonderful era of simplistic Nintendo box art.
Yeah.
Because that to me was some of the most iconic, like the Mario 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Mario 1 was just like Mario from the game throwing a fireball against a Koopa probably in the dungeon because I remember blue bricks being everywhere.
Right.
Mario 2 was Mario with a turnip jumping. And
Yeah.
Mario 3 was Raccoon Mario on a yellow background. Simple, direct, and appropriate. You know exactly what you're getting into. That's the kind of box art that I like.
The first one, if I'm not mistaken, was literally like pixels from the game, right?
Yeah, it's
And then
actually,
the- and then-
all
and
the,
then
capture from the
other
game.
ones were like actually like a drawn cartoon.
Yes.
looking thing. I remember.
Yeah, the original black box video games for Nintendo were basically just screenshots blown up of
Yeah.
the pixel art. Kid Icarus,
Metroid.
Yeah.
Ice Climbers,
And see, to be honest, like there's going to be a little bit of difference between y'all and me because y'all are going to be more talking about like the 80s. And for me, like when I started like with video games and stuff like that, it was the 90s.
the
you know?
90s, yeah.
That's when I remember going to
Right.
because I was born in the 80s, but I don't remember any of the 80s. But yeah, so for me it was like I remember like a little bit of like the original Nintendo being a thing, and then it was mostly like the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo were the things that the consoles that we had is
Yeah. And if you go back a little bit further into the late 70s, early 80s, like the Atari games, they had to sell you on the game by having artistic representations of the game, because if they showed you the actual game, you probably wouldn't have played. That's why like the Pitfall game had a guy on the front of it, like, you know,
oh yeah,
swinging
like,
around. And
or Yar's Revenge.
Yar's Revenge.
Yar's Revenge looks so fucking cool. When I saw like I think we actually had an Atari and had the cartridge, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I would look at that. But the cartridge is
The
the same
cartridge
thing
had
as-
the same as the box
And I
art.
would look at that. I was like, oh my God, you get this like giant science fiction like fly thing. And then I
Yeah.
play it and I die instantly because I don't know what the fuck is going on in that game. And there was no way to look it up to find out. So
Right.
I was like, oh, this is a terrible game. I don't know what the fuck's happening. This is
That game
broke.
has 2 screens.
Yeah. But yeah, back in the day with Atari and stuff like that, they had to like sell you on that. You know, oh, it's you know, there's tanks and then there's and it's just okay. It's
You
just
mean combat?
Combat, yes.
Combat actually, I think, just showed you like stuff
I
from
might have been
combat.
wrong. Yeah, I
but
might
to
be
be
wrong.
fair,
It did.
if there was a game that like could sell you, it's just 2 tanks rolling in a maze trying to shoot one another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or something like Adventure, where it's like, oh, you're playing this and this. Oh, I'm a dot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking dot.
And
What the
and dragon, no, that's a giant duck. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is.
yeah. But yeah, back in the day, with those, they definitely had to sell you on that. Like they couldn't do that. And I wasn't as familiar with the cover for the first Super Mario Brothers because it came with my brother's Nintendo. So he actually had it was a three game cartridge with that, Duck Hunt, and Track and Field.
Track and field, yeah.
And he had
which came with the power pad. Yep.
Yeah, it had the power pad. I never got to play. I have never to this day played Track and Field because neither my brother nor my parents ever wanted to get out the power pad from the closet. So I only ever played Duck Hunt.
I
and
love
Super
the
Mario
power pad, but I will tell you right now, I did not play track and field like a track and field runner. I played it
yeah.
like a bongo player.
Oh, yeah.
Get
With
down
your
on the ground,
hands.
just slap it.
Oh
but-
yeah. No, yeah, you're not supposed to. Yeah, nobody does it like that.
Well, it's
Great.
it's wild too, because like, so Nintendo had the black box art, but then they also had the gray box art.
Yeah, I remember
and so
the gray
and so
stuff.
the crazy thing is, Metroid had the same kind of art style that was on the black box art,
Yeah.
but it was on the gray box. But like Excite Bike is just like a digital representation of you on the bike. But Castlevania is like a thematic poster with
Oh,
like
yeah,
Simon
Castlevania.
Belmont.
Well, let's talk. We can talk about Konami real
Yeah,
quick. Back when Konami gave a damn,
Yeah.
like legitimately in this era, like the Castlevania art, the Contra art,
Yeah.
which is amazing, and then the Castlevania 2 art, which was stolen from Castle Ravenloft.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, specific,
100%.
not Simon, but the positioning of Dracula on the balcony behind him is
Yeah.
exactly from Castle Ravenloft.
Oh wow.
It's just that the artist took his head off and then drew a different head facing in a different direction. It was great.
So one of the most synonymous box arts is like the first Mega Man art.
Oh yeah,
which is like just atrocious.
bad
I didn't know
shit.
I didn't know we were steering straight into bad box art.
But I just want to talk about that.
It was
the
definitely
Capcom
noticeable.
laser grid era
It was
of box
definitely
arts.
noticeable. Like this is the thing where like if you saw that, you were
Right.
like, what the hell?
What is this? And he was hunched over
Yeah.
and kind of. But the crazy thing about that is that, for America and possibly for Japan, I'm not sure. But I think for America specifically, they changed it to be a little bit more of a representation of
Yeah,
what
I
Mega
think
Man
that's
was.
the Japanese box art. if
No,
I'm not
the
mistaken.
the PAL version.
The PAL
Yeah.
version is the
is a-
same as the first game.
Oh, okay.
It's awful.
Ooh.
Yeah, there was one PAL version of Mega Man where it's literally like just an angry Mega Man facing off against the ball. Like this is cool, but the Nintendo version got a dude in what was basically blue and gold Tron costume,
Right, that's the
in
first
a
one,
field
yeah.
of golden asses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I know were supposed to be like islands, and he was supposed to be jumping on the islands, but they gave him a reflection, and the reflection made it look like golden asses.
I think you could actually play that version of Mega Man in one of the later Marvel versus Capcoms, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yeah,
Yeah,
the box
One
art
of the
Mega Man.
one of the more 3D looking ones that aren't like sprite based.
I think
Right.
it was MVC3.
It might have been 3. I can't remember.
Another one, you talk about simplistic. The original Legend of Zelda
Yeah.
box art. It's just
It's a gold box with a shield with 4 icons on it.
Yeah.
right.
And yeah, that's it.
But for some reason like that, it's very memorable to me because it was kind of like this mystery of like, what is this?
It stood out.
Yeah.
Like it was the only box that had gold box art on it.
that brownish gold that like it seemed to become synonymous with like that was the Legend of Zelda color. Like if you got like for a very long time, if you got a Legend of Zelda game, it was that particular
gold.
golden
Yeah.
brownish gold color.
Another one, you talk about like the Atari box art trying to sell you on something that doesn't represent the game fully. The original box art for Dragon Warrior in the States, of course, Dragon Quest in Japan, Dragon Warrior. That game does not look like that.
Yeah, no, it
It is
doesn't.
not. But it would get you to rent it though.
Oh
If you
yeah.
like.
Oh yeah. I like that. I remember that box art. Seeing that somewhere.
I credit Nintendo Power because when I upped my subscription, when my mother upped my subscription, give her full credit.
Yeah.
They gave away copies of Dragon Warrior with it.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice.
So I got a copy of Dragon Warrior, and that really is where my love for RPGs started. Like Final Fantasy would then come in after that. But for that era of time where I really loved RPGs, I have to give it up to Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, Contra's box art is like straight off of like Aliens. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
straight off like just straight up like
Oh yeah, it was definitely trying to get people who like, hey, you've seen Rambo First Blood, or you've seen you like Predator, play this game.
Yeah. Well, and literally that's what the Contra artwork is.
Yeah.
Like it's like you have the xenomorph. You have a xenomorphish thing in the
Similar
background,
but legally distinct.
and
from.
then they've even remarked the guy in the front, the blonde guy in the front, is based off of Schwarzenegger from Commando,
Yeah.
and then the other guy is based off of Stallone's Rambo.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
that makes sense.
That
'cause
makes
they
sense.
Do look exactly like that.
another
Which
awesome.
for what that game is, again, it tells you what
Right.
this game's going to be about,
Right.
and as a reference, that's a pretty spot on reference.
You know what doesn't tell you what the game is? Bomberman. The original Bomberman art.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yes. Passengers, pause the video and look up Bomberman SNE. Oh, excuse me, NES.
Yeah,
and you will
Hudson
see
Soft.
by Hudson Soft, and you will see a football player with a fireworks display going on in the background from him. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it looks more like the when they did the gritty reboot of Bomberman than what Bomberman actually looked like in that game.
And DuckTales, they just ripped off a fucking poster from the animated
Oh yeah,
TV show.
DuckTales.
Is that no? Disney just here use this. Boom,
Yeah,
done.
yeah, that was. They might have actually commissioned that art, but like, yeah, that was like a. Yeah, I remember very vividly the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles went next to it with like the
Disney-
Triceratops mutants also stuck out to me. Like that was one that I
Disney
remember.
series games always had great Disney box art.
Oh yeah,
I can't
for
think
sure.
of I can't think of one that like had bad box art,
Yeah.
like at all, because again, you have the artist at Disney going.
Yeah.
I really want. Okay, so
go.
you have the black box.
Yes.
From Nintendo.
Yeah.
Sega, if you had a Master System, you had to deal with the checkerboard backgrounds and just anything that they would throw on there, and it was amazing.
It was amazing, simplistic, but also lazy at the same time. But it worked. Have you seen any of those?
No, I'm not as familiar with the Master System because for me, like I said, like it was the Genesis. And
before you got on there.
my brother had a Nintendo. He didn't have a Master System, so I didn't. There was a very long time where I didn't even know that the Master System existed. I thought that Genesis was the first Sega system.
So I'm gonna ask you a question. We're gonna play a little bit of a quiz here.
Okay. Oh, he's made it a quiz show.
All right. So
Okay.
these are all Master System games. I'm gonna give you the title, and
Okay.
I want you to. It's very simplistic what it
Okay.
is. They all have this white and black grid.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling. What do you think's on the front?
It should be wrestlers
It's either-
wrestling in a
either
ring.
two dudes wrestling or the bell.
Right.
What is it?
It's one guy
Okay.
holding his own head.
What the fuck?
It's one guy holding his own head in a headlock.
What the fuck is that?
That's,
in like this like Saturday like Sunday comic strip looking Garfield drawings, like Garfield level drawing. Like that's what that looks like.
All right, so here's another one.
Don't diss Garfield like that, like it's some sort of low-level drawing.
Black belt.
Garfield sucks. I'm sorry.
No, Garfield's amazing.
Black belt.
It should be like a
that's the one.
karate
No,
guy.
that's the no. It's. I think I remember. That's specifically a leg coming out of the void with and it's obviously kicking because like there's a yellow kicking thing on it.
Yeah.
He's correct.
Yeah.
He's correct.
Look at it.
He's correct.
Look at it's coming out of the void. That might just be.
What the
That might
fuck
be.
is this?
That might be someone's severed leg hitting the grid wall. That's all. You don't know. You don't know.
Jesus Christ.
We're gonna do
These
one.
are terrible.
We're gonna do one more. My Hero. Let Brady answer this one.
Yeah. No.
I don't
yeah.
know.
Go for it. You're gonna be. You're gonna have.
superhero. I don't know, like a
You
dude
believe
in
it
a
is
cape.
a superhero in a cape.
Yeah,
Okay.
superhero in a cape.
Okay,
Okay.
Jay. What do you?
No. Show.
Okay.
Show.
What the fuck?
That dude literally looks like he's getting either bath salts or smelling salts.
This is like it's like elementary student like discovers MS Paint.
Meanwhile, look at Afterburner. Like fucking
it's an
Afterburner
actual-
looks
it's an
exactly
actual-
like Afterburner.
Afterburner,
Yeah.
Afterburner looks
Right.
cool, but it's still like that background, that like
Offsetting.
lined background
Right.
makes it look like those boring ass computer games that you would
I think
see.
Wonder Boy and Monsterland's the only really cool looking one.
Well, that literally is
That-
someone took
that's
a
fantasy
drawing
zone.
of the pixels, and then there you go.
Right, that Wonder Boy picture's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Wonder Boy's pretty nice.
Yeah, but yeah, Fantasy Zone's just a picture of the ship shooting something on the. Like this is why I didn't want a Master System.
Yeah.
Was because the
Oh, yeah,
box
those
art
look-
was so fucking terrible.
Those look terrible. Like those look terrible. Like yeah.
I didn't want a Master System because you couldn't find one because
Yeah.
Nintendo strong-armed that shit. I'm going to say that right
Well,
now.
they were available locally for me, but I didn't want one because of the box art.
Yeah.
I was like, man, Duck Hunt looks way cooler than any of that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so you grew up in the Super Nintendo,
Yeah, the Super
Genesis
Nintendo
area.
I remember very vividly the I can't remember which. I think it was the original one, or it might have been Champion Edition. I can't remember of Street Fighter 2, the one where Blanca's like in the ball coming towards the Honda.
Right.
It was like a painted almost looking like.
Yeah.
That one was very vivid. On the Genesis side, there's all the Sonics. Like those were all like, oh man, this looks really cool. Because you had there was just Sonic standing there in the first one, and then there was Sonic with Tails. I never saw the second one, the Sonic 2, too much because Sonic 2 was the game. So back in the day, games used to come with your system when you bought them. For the Super Nintendo, it was Super Mario World. And then for when I got with the second version of the Genesis, it was Sonic 2. I think Sonic 1 came in the first version. I might be wrong
Sonic
about that.
Sonic came a little bit later from the launch of the Genesis. But there was I I remember there being a Sonic cart for a Genesis. I remember there being a Sonic 2 for a bundle for a Genesis.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was a 6-game bundle that included like Sonic, Columns, Golden Axe, and like 3 other games. And that was a pretty cool 6-pack. I will say.
Yeah,
that
the
right
one that I got just came with Sonic 2.
I want to bring up something that Pat Contry, Pat the NES punk, and he brought this up about. I want to say this was about half of last year in one of the CU podcasts that they still do, just but more sporadically.
Right.
Video game system box art, the system never sold the system.
Yeah.
It was always the game box art to me that sold the games, and in and of itself also helped to sell the system.
Right.
Oh,
right.
yeah, like
because
they've
the system
always
was just a
been-
picture of the system.
It was
If
either
that.
a picture of the system or with like the PlayStation 2. It was literally just a blue box with like
Right.
PS2 on it.
Ultra minimalist shit
yeah.
out there.
The Xbox 360 was just the white with
The
like
white
the
box.
spherical green lines and stuff
Right.
like that. Green and white lines.
Like I remember from the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo box, you'd have to go on the backside and like you can see like shots of the games.
Of the
on there.
games. Yeah.
But yeah, like I always kind of like the system never sold itself. It was always the games, and the games in that era to me were the box.
Yeah.
Like, or it was going to be the commercials for it. But for me, especially like, and this might link back into we were going to VHS and things like that. When you went to the video store and you had the boxes on there, it's like, well, I don't like. Maybe you didn't have Nintendo Power, or you did, or I think it was Sega Visions. I think was the name of their magazine.
possibly. I never.
Or you didn't have Electronic Gaming Monthly, so you didn't have these
Right.
things that would give you
Yeah.
information about these games. So
Yeah.
you literally like it went on what was in commercials and what was on those boxes. And especially if you didn't come from like Nintendo or one of the bigger publishers like Capcom or Konami,
Right.
your box art was the only way people would really know. I never saw a commercial for Bomberman. Let me put it like that.
Well, I never saw a commercial for 8 Eyes, but I think there might have been one. But 8 Eyes,
8 Eyes was metal as fuck.
8 Eyes is like they totally. I think that was Capcom, right? That did 8 Eyes.
I'm not familiar with that.
Talk amongst yourselves while I look that up.
Look that up because the box art and the way the game is presented is it looks Castlevania. It looks like a Castlevania game, except you have a hawk as a familiar, and you can send him out to do
8
things.
Eyes was Taxan.
Okay. They were trying to capitalize on Castlevania.
Yeah.
The box art, like,
So the box art is, which by the way, 8 Eyes takes place in the post-apocalypse, or it could be medieval times if you look at it that. Similarly, Crystallis was a lot like that. In the
Right.
fact that it was actually a post-apocalyptic game, but if you started out, it was just kind of thing. Except you have to remember the fact that your character wakes up from a suspended animation tube, so there might be some science fiction going on there. But
there's a picture of the box art right next to the picture of the actual game footage. So
Yeah.
it looks 100%.
There were
Castlevania.
also there were often times where it's just come to my mind where I would see a game and be like, oh my god, that box art looks so cool, but then you turned around and the game looks not great, and this is because like most games didn't look great, especially if they were like NES games. Like
Right.
they're not going to look all that great. What was it? Was it Mutant Football?
Mutant League
League
Football for the Genesis.
Because I remember because it had this like skeleton in like metal football pads running, and then I think he was like stepping on like an orc looking thing or something like that. I could be wrong about that. I vividly remember the skeleton guy, and I was like, oh my god, this looks so cool. And you turn around, I was like, that just looks like Madden.
And then there was a game I saw like all the time, and I never picked it up because of how horrendous the box art was. And it's a space shooter. Jay probably already knows what I'm going to say. It's called Phalanx.
I was going to say Phalanx for the end because if
Right.
you want to talk about random fucking box art, so Phalanx, space shooter, the space shoot, the ship is in the background. However, in the foreground is a hillbilly playing a banjo.
Oh yeah, okay. So
What is anything?
I do not remember this game, but I remember that box art because it was in so many video game magazines.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, what the fuck is this? Because there was a lot of times for me at least, like, you got games on your birthday, you got games on your on Christmas.
And if you saved up your allowance money enough, you could get maybe a game.
Yeah.
A game a year.
But most of the time, if you got a game, you got to rent a video game like on the weekend, so you could keep it that extra day. So if they didn't have it at my local video store, then I didn't get to play it unless I randomly got it. And for me at least, like starting early on, like most of the time it'd be like my parents would get me a random game. It wouldn't be like that's how I got Toe Jam and Earl 2 Panic on Funkatron.
Right.
I didn't ask for this game. I didn't know this game existed. But I got the game. I don't know why they thought this was the game that I needed, but I sure as fuck got that game. It's a crazy game. Look it up if you ever get the time. But yeah, that like if it like really the only time that I got choice was when I got to go to the video store. Right. And the one video store that my parents really liked to go to was the home video because they let you keep it. You had till 6 o'clock to bring it back. The other store, which I liked better because their selection of like movies and their selection of video games was better. You had to have it back by 4 for some reason. I don't know why. Right. And nowadays I understand. Like, yes, of course, my mom worked at the school. My dad worked. You know, was at a job. So like, who the fuck can bring a tape or a video game back at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Like what the fuck? That's ridiculous. But yeah, I don't even know where I was going with all this. I'm rambling. Shit. We're all taking strolls down memory lane. And
I'll tell you something real quick.
Phalanx's box art cover will do that to you.
Right.
Yes.
It will trigger childhood memories.
And
even if you never
and that's one of those like I want to remember. Like you can like 10 years from now you can bring up Phalanx, and I'm not gonna know what the fuck Phalanx is, but you show me that cover art, I'm like, oh shit, I remember that cover art.
Well, much like when I was talking before on the show about being able to rent videotapes from convenience stores, right? Maybe not necessarily movies from convenience stores, but not necessarily convenience stores for renting video games, but there were places where you wouldn't think you could rent video games that you could rent video games from. For example, I had like, it wasn't a rent-a-center, but it was a place that rented furniture and shit like that. Yeah. They also rented video games. Yeah. They rented video games like, you know, Nintendo games were like $1 or whatever. Oh, wow. And that's where I was able to rented Rygar from that place around the corner. Rygar also has some pretty cool badass box art. Rygar is an example where the Nintendo game was better than the arcade game, but also very, very fucking hard. Yeah. But yeah, like I saw that and I was like, dude, Conan the Barbarian with a fucking like razor disc, let's go. You know, totally. Would sell you on that kind of stuff, you know.
It kind of sounded like either the Superman theme or the Indiana Jones theme, depending on where you caught. And
you heard it over and over again forever.
Yeah, unless you went into a door and then it was a totally different thing, but it was a giant wise man who told you something about Gran Valley or some shit.
And, you know, you had to find Legend of Zelda, like, riddle pieces to figure out how to fucking beat the game.
No, sir. No. Simon's Quest. Yeah. Simon's Quest riddle pieces. That shit was batshit wild.
But yeah, like the Mega Man box art for the second one definitely was like, you know, the Mega Man box art, like you saw those box arts like improve over time, and you know, some of them were like the Double Dragon 2 box art looked like a fucking action movie poster. Like straight up, the guy's got the fucking girl and he's like saving her and all.
I remember him like having the other end of the whip that like the whip ladies got. Linda, her name was always. They were all named Lindas, except you couldn't do that, and like you couldn't grab the whip from them. No, so like,
yeah, they lied to you quite a bit in those, especially early on box covers. Yeah. Like it was just. Dude, this is not gonna look. It's not gonna look like this, and you're not gonna be able to do.
Though to be fair, pretty much everything that happens other than that in that box art, like there's a helicopter, there's a helicopter stage. You're gonna be fighting on rooftops. Right. That was some cool shit.
Talk about like cool cinematic, but also simplistic. Was like the original 3 Ninja Gaiden video game box arts, especially the first one. Which again, that's another representation of the Nintendo game is better than the arcade game, because the arcade game is just a beat 'em up,
Yeah.
and the Nintendo game's an action adventure platformer. But
with a story and cutscenes.
Right,
Tecmo was well ahead of their time.
Yeah.
for the console stuff, for sure,
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
because they figured the arcade you play for a couple quarters and then give up on it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I will say the arcade had a better game over screen because it was literally you about to be like while the goons are watching, you're about to be chopped in half by a saw blade, circular saw too. So you know somehow Craftsman got some. No, I'm kidding. Craftsman presents Ninja Gaiden.
so let's you want to keep talking about video games? You want to move on to movies? Like what do you?
I want to bring up Mystery of the Druids.
Okay.
Because I wanted to bring Phalanx, because those are two of the most insane box arts for me. Jody, look up, and again, also passengers, pause real quick and look up Mystery of the Druids box art. Just everybody, just go ahead and do that.
Is this a game?
This is a video game.
Okay.
Yes, this was an adventure game, and I want you to just look up the box art. You've probably seen it before. And it is amazing. Yeah.
Mystery of the Druids.
Mystery of the
I'm working on it.
There we go.
What the fuck is this?
It's like that's a box that says "Get the fuck ready." It is a point and
Jesus
click
Christ.
adventure
Why
game.
is this on Steam? Good lord.
Oh, you know, it's actually a competent point and click adventure game.
This box art says, "I have a mouth and I must scream."
And I am screaming. Period.
Yeah.
I'm screaming and ready to go.
Jesus.
Pound for pound, best video game box art of all time is a toss up between Doom and Doom 2. Because Doom is just like the Doom guy on just a mountain fighting demons,
Right.
and the other one is Doom guy shooting a rocket launcher at a demon with a rocket launcher.
Yeah, that beats the original Duke Nukem 3D box art for sure. Which is still, it's a good game.
Yeah.
No, it's a good game. The original, was very
the
good.
box art definitely. Another video game like selling you on something that the game doesn't represent is Xenophobe, because they were also pushing the aliens kind of thing or whatever, and the game was like naughty. I mean, it had aliens in it, but it was like
It had xenomorph. Like, anybody want to say that wasn't fucking? There's eggs, and then the eggs would like have a little skittery monster come out.
they
of
just
them.
didn't do it competently.
And then every so often, like you're walking in the room, and then the door behind you that you came out of would open up, and then a projectile would just come at you, and just makes no sense.
There was a game that had like a really cool looking like movie poster box art to it. It was really like niche, and it had like very cartoony, and it had like a kind of like a B movie flair to it. I remember Nintendo Power had like a whole like quarter of a magazine worth of maps for it and what the different items did for your companion, which was the Blob and the boy and his Blob trouble on Blobonia or something like that.
Had to save the Princess Blob.
You got
great.
That game was beyond frustrating.
You feed the Blob an apple jelly bean. What does he turn into?
An apple?
A jack.
Applejack.
Because Apple Jacks.
Jesus Christ.
Now, here's the thing. Some of those jelly beans didn't make any sense because what was the ketchup one? I can't remember what the ketchup one was. There was a ketchup jelly bean.
Hold on. If we start down this road, we're gonna have like 14 different rest stops, and it's all about a boy and his blob. Boy and his blob was a Nintendo game that played like a point and click adventure. It really did, because you had just wild fucking leaps in logic you had to do to solve some of those puzzles. I will just leave it at that. I remember that artwork. That was great. Doom is still the greatest artwork of all time. And just to kind of link these two sections together, the box art sold you.
Yeah.
If you were in the video store and you want to look for something, all you had to go on pretty much was the box art, and if something caught your eye, it was most likely going to get you to the counter.
And I will say, just looking up some things real quick, we in America got shafted
Yes,
on
we
box art. the Japanese box art was almost always
Better.
like so much better.
Yeah.
Just looking at some of those, like for the original Metroid, like just miles ahead of like anything that we had.
We also got hosed on commercials because the Japanese commercial for one of the Zelda games is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
What are you talking? We got the Zelda rap.
The Zelda
Also, and-
rap.
The Legend of Zelda is really rad.
Looking at it like
Ganon's bad.
to put like an extra like dot on the Atari boxes, like those were like art piece masterworks that had nothing
to
do
do with the game.
Breakout. Look up the cover for Breakout, and it is like, what the fuck is this? And and it's just a game where you're hitting the ball up and
You're playing one person ping pong.
Yeah, you're playing one person ping pong. It's like, what the fuck
Missile
is this?
Command.
Yeah, Asteroids. Asteroids looks like a space opera.
Right.
and what the fuck? Like they like Atari lied to you. And I remember because like my somehow we had like a little an Atari little catalog. I guess it came with like one of the systems. Because I later got a system from my my aunt. She got us like a.
I
got me,
recall
like, a
the
newer
Nintendo
system.
doing that too.
But it
Which
was
is
like a little
effective.
catalog, and you could flip through and like you'd flip through and like all it rarely had like the game like it might have like a little square of like the game, but it had like this big. It had the cover art for it, and it was like, oh my god, this looks like an awesome game. And then you would look at the game and you'd be like, what the fuck is this?
I think I remember having that actually because there was one where I remember specifically. This is one that I remember because of the way it looked. They had a Pele soccer game, and they had Pele on there, and they had him like doing the kick, you know, all this wild shit or whatever. And they're like a little bitty square thing that you couldn't see of the actual video game because
everybody was squares, and the soccer ball was a smaller square. Good luck.
All I'm saying is that I'm glad that when I was actually like going to the video store, like Atari had basically died. Because if I would have made my parents spend money to rent these video games just from the cover art and then got them home, and they would have been these terrible games that most of them are, or at the very least like plain games. Like Breakout's a fun game, but it's not what's on the cover.
Let me tell you something insane, dude. Do you know how much Asteroids were when it came out? $44.99 in 1980. In 1980 money, that's like $200.
Yeah.
So you better like shooting rocks, son. Because you're going to be doing that for 2 or 3 years.
That is wild. But anyway, so video game box art, you know, and I mean, we could keep talking about video games because the box art just keeps going. Because the PlayStation, original PlayStation box art, well, it should say box art, but like jewel art or whatever you want to say. It's like some of the coolest, like especially in the Final Fantasy, like that's some of my favorite artwork. Like just the drawing.
Let me say this: Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3. That was all of it, like for the Super Nintendo, Nintendo, and then the Super Nintendo. Was extremely simple.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking
Final
of those.
Fantasy 2 was a red background. Final Fantasy 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Final Fantasy was a little bit more because it was a purple background, and you had Mog the Moogle on the cover, so it gives you a little bit more of an idea on it. But it was very simple box art.
Right.
I think in an era where you had a lot of stuff that was trying to do all of this artwork, like I remember at the same time, which was another SquareSoft game, Secret of Mana.
Yes.
Secret of Mana had a much more like deliberate, like look.
Oh yeah, it was
like
like
because it was the party
looking
of 3.
at it now, it looks like a Ghibli movie. Like
Yes,
yeah.
100%. Yeah, and I think that was super intentional. Let me
Of
put
course
like
it
that.
was. Yeah, for sure.
Well, particularly for that series, I think that series artistically across all three versions was trying to do like a either Princess Mononoke or Howl's Moving Castle, like those kind of artistic motifs that he put in those movies.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Well, then we'd be remiss to at least mention the Chrono Trigger art where it was, you know,
Akira Toriyama,
drawn, where it's like, oh shit, this dude's fighting a frog. What the hell? In armor.
Yeah. I hoped the frog would win.
Yeah, we know you felt that way.
Yeah. That's the only game, and it's amazing how much I dislike that game. There was a sale for it on Steam, and I bought it because it was like $10 for it. And I kind of want to go back and play it to see with like older eyes and like longer sensibilities. Like if
I have that Super Nintendo thing that Nintendo got out.
I do too.
It's one of those games. It's one of those games on there. I just never.
I jumped on when the NES classics all went up in smoke immediately. It's like as soon as that Super Nintendo one drops, I'm jumping on it.
Yeah, I did the
did that
same
too.
thing, and I got one of those as well.
Movie box art. So a lot of times it would just be a reproduction of the poster.
Yeah,
Most of the time.
For the most part. So a lot of this might coincide with talk about movie posters and of itself.
Well, the good thing is like there was an era there where like movie post like nowadays like movie post, and it's the same thing kind of with video game box art. Like video game box art for the most part, you're gonna remember like things are gonna stick out because most of the time it's very plain nowadays. They just don't give a shit.
Mega 64 did a comedy. They were communists. No, a comedy video on it, and I think it actually is more poignant than anything else. And it's like chin down, eyes up.
Yeah,
that's literally it's like it's a person, typically a man, but there are also a few ones like Tomb Raider. I remember specifically, and it's a person like looking straight at you. Chin pointed to the ground, but eyes looking directly at you.
Right.
And they did that for so much box art, and that goes even back into like I would even say even to the like late Super Nintendo, start of the PlayStation and N64 era of boxes where that really starts. Call of Duty really fucking hit that one home.
I mean, and it's the same thing with like movie posters nowadays. They're all like there's like 3 versions of it. You know,
you've got teal orange.
You've got the heads all looking in different directions, like a line of of heads,
typically in purple.
Yeah. Purple, bluish stuff like that. But yeah, like but like back in the day when we were, you know, when we were going to the movie stores to get stuff, like the box art was often very good, or because it was based on those the posters, and the posters were very good, like
because most of them were drawn by one guy.
Yeah,
but
well, I think that's where it kind of started. When you went to the theater, you may not necessarily know what movie you were going to go watch, so you had the posters to kind of really kind of sell you on.
Yeah, you would show up, and go, okay, well, what's showing? And then you would look at the posters that were on the outside of the movie theater and go, okay, we're going to watch that.
Right. Or you would be already going because you knew there was a movie playing you wanted to see, but then you would see other posters and that would be like, ooh, we gotta watch Gremlins.
Yeah.
You know,
I've told this story maybe once before, but the only time in my life that I can really like, as far as movies, and this is movie theater, so it's not really movie box art, but I walked down. I was at Ole Miss, and I walked down to the theater, which is a good like 10, 20 minute jaunt. It's like I'm going to be watching. There's no I don't really feel like a movie now. I'm going to walk. No, we're watching something. And we're kind of looking at it, and it was just this simple like thing. Like everything else was like all like artwork and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's this one simple thing, and it was Saw. And it's like okay. It's almost Halloween. So we went in there, and that was one of the most cathartic horror experiences I've ever had in my life. Like, oh my god,
tense.
That is, forget the rest of the series.
Yeah,
that movie stands alone as an all-time horror classic, and it just had this very simple box art, or rather simple poster, and it was great. So like, movie posters begat movie box art,
right?
Which and then for the American scene, which begat video game box art because they're kind of linked in the same way at the movie store.
I had almost the same experience when I was younger with Darkman.
Darkman, because that was a great cover.
That's a great
poster.
Yeah, like I saw that and I went, you know, I'm in the mall, I'll go see it, and it had the same box art as well. But yeah, like you would usually, if you had time, and maybe if you were a teenager, a little bit older too, of just like I would spend like an hour or so like in a video store looking at different like
when I got a little bit older and my parents didn't have to drive me there, I would just walk around for a very long time. They would probably like hated me because I'd just be walking around for fucking ever.
I would look at the same 12 anime movies whenever they started getting anime. Eventually they started getting anime. But there was a lot of, you know, especially like the not adult in the way we think of adult now, but like adult themed animated movies
Yeah.
you didn't see very often. So the box art of, like, let's say Fire and Ice, or the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
or Wizards, or any of those, and be like, whoa, what's this? You know?
So, I learned a lesson one day that just because it's animated doesn't mean that it's made for kids. And my
Watership
parents-
Down?
And no, my parents also made this because they let me rent the first Spawn animated movie
Made for HBO.
made for HBO.
Oh, yeah.
And
We mentioned Keith David earlier. I thought,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I was watching and I was like, oh, that's a boob.
Yep.
And then I think I was actually at my grandmother's house when I was watching it. And I think my brother came and there was a scene where there were some boobs and he was like, hey, do y'all know what he's watching? And my brother's like 10 years older than me. So, and I was and like for the rest of the time when that movie store was there, they had the Spawn, they had a little piece of paper taped to it that says, hey, this is animated, but it is not for kids.
Children, yep.
They weren't used to that.
Yeah,
They were,
like,
yeah.
nobody understood that. Like,
Right.
nobody knew that.
Yeah, there was another movie that that probably had happened to somebody
Yeah.
before it. It was probably called Heavy Metal.
Oh yeah. I also remember renting when I didn't understand what anime was,
Man,
like an actual series.
My apologies for interrupting. The Heavy Metal box art should have been immediately made people aware that was not for kids.
Yeah. You
would
because
think.
Tarna.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
all I need to
Because it
fucking
was just a
say
movie
about
poster.
that.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing they had like 3 volumes of Robotech, and on videotape it was like I think it was like 2 episodes per thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not even. No, I think they had like 2 volumes and it was 2 episodes. So I was like, okay, this is like there's 2 of these, so that means they have 2 of them, so that means that
That's
this is
it. That's it.
And
No.
then I watched 4 episodes and the story's not over with, and I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, like I remember there were so many like weird things that I got to watch because they just jumped out at me. There's an animated movie, and it's kind of like, it's not Ralph Bakshi, but it's kind of that style, that sci-fi, that grittier sci-fi. It's not like adult, but it was probably like PG-13.
Right.
That I remember very vividly. I never can remember I figured out the name of it a while back, but it's these like people are like kind of enslaved underground, and then this one kid, this younger guy, escapes, and he finds this sword hilt.
Yeah.
That doesn't have a blade, but if he like if he stabs it into something that's not actually like living, like a cyborg or something, it actually like hurts them.
Okay.
Like it actually works like a sword. It just can't but if he stabs like a human, like nothing happens. And he's like fighting, I don't know, there's like spaceships and all this shit, and I just remember that shit, and I was like, oh, like
Was it something Orion?
I think it is something Orion.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
'Cause I discovered it much later.
For some reason in the children's section, because it was animated, it was there, and it was right at the edge of like it wasn't
It's
gonna
very borderline.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
wasn't-
PG. It's PG, but like Fire and Ice PG.
Yeah, it wasn't gonna get. Yeah, this was like earlier PG, where it was like Gremlins PG. You know, where it was like, okay, like they're not going to. I'm not gonna get in trouble for watching this, but they're probably right on the line of like, should he be watching this? but yeah, things like that were like really stuck out to me. There are tons and tons of like horror movies that like I was too young to rent, but I just remember like walking around in the horror section and just looking at all of them, and like to this day, like if I see some of them, like I'll be like, oh shit, I remember that. I never watched this movie, but I remember that.
Star Chaser: The Legend of Orion. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the box art for Zombie by Fulci.
Yeah, that's the one that's just like
Don't
the zombie
you
head.
mean Zombie 2?
Yeah, It's Zombie 2, but it's zombie. Yeah, it's just got a picture of like the coolest zombie in the movie with like maggots and shit coming out of its eyes. Some cool horror box art that would get me. One of them was Hellraiser.
Hellraiser's a good one. Hellraiser's a very good one.
I vividly remember every single time I saw like a
Hellraiser.
Like a Hellraiser one.
Evil Dead 2 just had like a skull with human eyes.
Yeah. I vividly remember that one. I also remember Army of Darkness because it was like
I'm sorry, because I remembered Evil Dead. You remembered Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is like the most Hollywood of the posters.
Yeah.
Well, it was aping all of those like I think it was aping like the National Lampoon.
It was very
movies,
National Lampoon looking.
where it was instead of Chevy Chase, it was Ash.
It was Ash.
You know, and instead of them being, those were all like bright and shit. Like National Lampoon's Vacation was kind of bright.
Right.
This one was very dark and there were demons and shit.
The original Evil Dead, though, one where she's like being like it looks like she's being dragged down. It's just like that is just a stark, just like it's it's a simple poster. It's like I think it's a blue background. It's black and white, and you just have her like reaching up and like stuff is like pulling her down.
That one I don't remember as well, but Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness really stick
Crazy
out in my
thing
head.
is like and sometimes like the box art would be better for like the worst versions of a movie. What I mean by that is that Return of the Living Dead is awesome. The box art is okay, but the Return of the Living Dead Part 2 box art looks way creepier because it's just like the sky with like a zombie face in it, like blowing wind out everywhere. But the movie sucks.
Yeah.
Like the second Return of the Living Dead is.
There was one of them where it was like it was like hand drawn. They were like zombies, but like they were like punk zombies. They like one of them had like a mohawk.
Yeah,
it was like a guy.
That's Return of the Living Dead.
That's the original.
Yeah. It's cool looking.
I remember that one,
but the second one's scarier looking.
I also remember Fright Night.
Yeah,
Fright Night's an amazing.
That's a really good one.
Where it's the house, and then up above it's like this cloud of like darkness coming up, and then in it is just these fangs and eyes.
Yeah,
and like for the longest I didn't know there was even though there were like fangs, I didn't know there was a vampire movie. I thought that this was like a ghost movie.
Right.
So I never like for the longest I was like, oh, this is a ghost movie. This scares the shit out of me.
Dude, look up the box art for Mausoleum real quick.
I'm always looking that up.
Oh, that also reminds me, there were something that you don't get anymore was like there would be a video where it would have the lenticular cover.
Yes.
Where if you turn it, and it was the one that sticks out in my head since we said Fright Night was the Frighteners.
Yeah.
Because
Frighteners had that.
It made it like a 3D ghost was like popping out.
Yeah. They had that for a couple of movies. I remember Sound Waves or whatever that one was also like that. So Mausoleum came out like 83, and I saw the box art, and I was with my cousins. I'm like, dude, look at this horror movie's box art. It's got like a fucking skeleton opening up its chest, and in the middle of it, there's like this looking like mausoleum graveyard kind of thing going on. And we rented it, and it was like really, really fucking bad.
Yeah, oftentimes like it felt like they would put more money into the cover, especially of a horror
more money
movie.
into the promotional rather than the actual feature.
Where you'd be like, oh man, this art looks really good, and then the movie is like not at all.
But it depended on what full moon movie it was. But full moon sometimes like subspecies like they would give a shit, and then bad channels they wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah, all of the Puppet Master ones were always stuck out to me.
Yeah, the best one's the third one because it's got the 6-armed cowboy.
That's the one that I will remember most vividly. Because it's like in the Old West or something. You see like the 6-armed one, and then all the other, and there's like 15 of them.
It's set during World War II.
Oh yeah,
because that was the puppet makers.
I think the most recent one was Puppet Master something, the Littlest Reich.
So for our generation, trying to do a hard stop turn and make sure the omnibus doesn't go down the Blumenstrasse anyway. Let me make this statement, see if you would agree with it. Movie box art and maybe movie posters for us as kids in that generation, isn't that our first window into the horror genre?
Yeah.
Like without actually
the
seeing the
covers-
movies themselves,
Yeah,
those
like
covers.
I said,
Yeah.
there's like I said, like there are tons and tons of, and it's really hard for them to come back to my head right now.
Right.
But like there are tons and tons of them where I knew that I could not. My parents weren't going to rent for some reason. Like some things I could watch, like
Right.
they'd rent me RoboCop all fucking day.
Right.
I don't know why.
Yeah, but you can't watch Prince of Darkness though.
Yeah, but I can't. But if it's in this horror section and it's rated R, I can't watch it.
Right.
Like my mom to the day she died I would be like, hey mom, you guys let me watch the TV movie, and she was like, no, we didn't. Yeah, you also let me watch Tommy Knockers, and both of those scared the shit out of me. But she would be like, no, we did not let you watch those, and I was like, yes, you did. But yeah, like they're vivid. I have vivid memories of like if some of these come up. Like I just saw one oh yeah, I was looking through a streaming service, and I was just because I had just gotten Paramount Plus and Showtime through Hulu, and I was just looking through all of their movies. And Night of the Demons 2.
Yes.
The cover art for this, it's like this weird, super disgusting demon chick.
Right.
And I was like, oh my god, that was one of the covers that I saw
Right.
in the video store.
Right.
Like. So, like, to this day, like, there are these horror movies that I am very familiar with only through their box art, because I would just go and just look at all of them for, like, I don't know how, until
Ingrained into your
my
mind.
parents were like, you have to pick something or we're going. Like,
There was, and I'll come across those like just through whatever streaming service, and I'll see one of the box arts that I saw when I was younger, and be like, I'm watching that. I don't care how bad it is.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's bad.
Yeah.
But I don't care because the box art was definitely like, it's ingrained in you. Like you look at it all the time. You can never watch it.
Yeah.
Like, man, I just want to watch this Bray movie, but I
Yeah.
can't watch it because it's in the horror section and I'm not allowed.
yeah.
But
then
I think, and I also think that's just unique to that genre of movie and film.
Yeah.
Like, because like you said, RoboCop, they'd let you watch RoboCop. What
Yeah.
the fuck? But it's the notion that horror is meant to put you at unease and something like that. And it's like, so your first real like, at least for me, I will say the first thing I remember seeing was, I think they were up to what in '88. I think they were up to like 5 or 6 on the Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Let me see. I mean, it was
At least had up to 4 at that point.
it was it was typically like one at least every other year for a while there.
Yeah, and
So-
there was a little bit more of a gap between 4 because that was
'Cause I
supposed to
wanna
be the
say-
final one, and then it made a
Yeah,
shitload
I
of
want
money.
to say 8 came out in 89. I want to say or
Okay.
88, 89.
No, but I remember there was a movie store on 90 in Ocean Springs.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a hole in a wall. And you could tell the building was from the 70s
Yeah.
because wood paneling fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just remember just going in the horror section and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like, I want to say 6 was out at least by
Right,
this time.
right.
There's Friday the 13th and like there's, because I remember Friday the 13th is just Friday the 13th, and maybe
Right.
and the picture of the woods,
Right.
And because obviously the killer isn't Jason at this point,
Yeah.
Right.
Then 2 is like you see the silhouette. You see him like this hulking thing like
Right.
along with it
'Cause
And
he's
then
got a potato sack.
and then you
Yeah.
start seeing the mask in 3, and then
The
the
mask
silhouette
shows up
becomes
in
so
3.
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one of those that sticks out to me is Friday the 13th. Jason Goes to Hell, because that's like a very striking, because it's like the whole box is like fire, and then it shows like the mask with like this like weird snake monster demon thing wrapping in and out. You're not gonna see any of that shit in the movie, because because he's barely in that one. But yeah. That's the one of those that sticks out. Also, the Nightmare on Elm Street ones,
Yeah.
stick out. Especially like the later ones when we
Well,
got into
it's-
like Dream Warriors, Dream Master.
See, for me, and if
Because
I'm wrong
I just
about
remember like the like you see the clawed glove, and it's like I think it's Dream Warriors, where it's the people like standing on the glove, like looking towards.
this, again, for me, silhouettes are everything. So I think Friday the first Friday the 13th. I was about to put a lot of numbers in wrong
Yes.
order
Yeah.
there, so
Yes,
I
yeah.
apologize. but it's Freddy's silhouette.
Right.
And that is just so striking, and it really gives you an idea that this is something dreadful, and like we're gonna go.
Yeah, and then like when you get the dream child, it's just like a fucking bassinet or whatever.
Yeah.
That's because they gave up.
Yeah. So there was another thing is like there was especially like the movies that didn't have posters, right? Direct to VHS movies. So there's like at least 4 or 5 movies, but I can think of 2 offhand that have the same trope. And it's a trope of just an item on the box art. And one's called Offerings, and the other one's called Happy Birthday to Me. It's just like Happy Birthday to Me is just a birthday cake with a knife cutting into the cake and blood's coming out of it.
Okay.
And then,
I've probably seen that.
And then Offerings is just a generic Christmas present that's like square that's got blood coming out of the bottom of it. And they're all just like an image of just the one thing that's kind of like popping out to stand out or whatever. And that trope was used like a lot, especially for direct to video box arts that would kind of like grab you and be like, look at this thing. It's kind of weird looking, isn't it?
The funny thing is, now if you look up like the box cover of Happy Birthday to Me, it's a dude getting stabbed with a shish kebab.
Yeah.
That's full of like shish kebab meat and stuff on it.
Right.
Well, that's
That's
a waste of shish kebab.
That's what you get now. The
Goddamn.
guy just has his mouth open. And he's getting
I much
stabbed
prefer
with
the
it.
bleeding birthday cake.
Yeah,
Fuck,
yeah.
yeah.
There's also the topic of like re-releases and then alternate box arts as well.
Yeah.
But
Which, if we go back to our collectors episode, then that also becomes a thing if you want to collect stuff like VHS or like
Yeah.
or old DVD.
Well,
or
there's like
something like that.
with the Star Wars movies, there's like 50 box covers
Right.
of them just on videotape.
because
Like,
there were re-releases.
yeah, because there were re-releases. I vividly remember though, like the first one for A New Hope,
Right.
With Luke holding the lightsaber up, and
It's pretty much the
and Leia.
poster art.
Yeah, but I remember seeing that before I even knew what Star Wars was, and
Right.
and like it literally causing like I started creating like, okay, well, what's the story of
Right.
this? And I remember also. Like very early on when I was very young and watched it, like being a little disappointed because it wasn't the story that I had
That you had in your head.
I got over that real quick, but yeah, but things like that. But yeah, and I told this last week when we were just talking, but at Home Video, one of the stores, like the whole area was carpeted except for there was a section in the middle that for some reason they had put down like all these horror movie posters and
Laminated.
and laminated over them. So whenever you're walking in, and for a long time that was the horror section. It was like this little like squared up area where you're looking and you look down and then there's this weird ass horror movie poster like we were talking. I've never watched the horror movie The Nest, but I have vivid memories of that poster
Yeah.
because it's like this it's like paint, it's like hand drawn. It's like this chick in like a negligee type thing with this gigantic cockroach like biting her neck.
Right.
And it's really weird. Never watched that movie.
Right.
Probably never will because I do like cockroaches like absolutely gross me the fuck out.
Right.
But I will never forget that poster because I stared at it so long.
Right.
Because I would just walk around the horror section looking at shit.
Forever and a day, I would see the video box art of A Boy and His Dog and be like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here, but I want to see it, but I'll have to wait.
Yeah.
And watch that. Another trope, especially for sci-fi horror movies, was the trope of like the part of the thing that the movie was going to be about. It maybe a claw,
Yeah.
or part of a robot.
Or Alien had the egg.
Right. There was like Project Metal Beast and Rawhead Rex and
Rawhead Rex.
and there's a couple other ones.
I thought we made a decision never to mention Rawhead Rex. No, I'm pretty sure Clive Barker doesn't like people mentioning at least that version of Rawhead Rex because he wrote the story, or did he direct it?
I don't remember.
I don't think
There
he
was
did.
one that he didn't direct that he wished he had because they took it and just ran with it in a direction he didn't like.
What do you think's a better title, Brady? Killbots or Chopping Mall?
Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall.
Yeah.
Chopping
Way
Mall.
better.
Chopping Mall.
Way better.
I've seen Chopping Mall.
I have too.
And that has nothing to do with Killbots. That
I
is
mean,
a
they're-
Chopping
Clive
Mall.
Barker wrote the screenplay for Rawhead Rex, but it was directed by George Pavlou.
Okay, yeah, because I think that was the one where it's like he had wished he had been the director on it because
Yeah,
they
probably.
they took it from him and then just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They-
But no, Chopping Mall. I want
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
pivot and go straight into Chopping Mall, a 4-hour discussion on the greatest movie ever called Chopping Mall.
So there was a really a funny sitcom back in like the mid to late 80s called Head of the Class. I only mention that because one of the actors is in Chopping Mall, and that movie is wild, dude.
Oh, yeah.
like it is a trip. So for our passengers, it's a movie where like you got some rowdy teenagers, and you're like, one of them works at the mall, and they're like, oh, we can just if we hide, we can like spend the night in the mall. The mall's got some new security guards, and they're ready to kill.
Yeah. Well, they specifically want to hide in like it was either the bed furnishing or it was the camping. I couldn't remember
Right.
which one.
I think it's
but they
the-
want to have
yeah.
an orgy.
Right.
See, I
Makes
remember
sense.
specifically one of the gentlemen in that movie was Deathstalker from Deathstalker 2.
Oh yeah.
And that was funny because
Nice.
that movie has like the third best.
Mm-hmm.
I think Red Letter Media has said this before, but yeah, it's the third best head explosion in a movie ever.
Right.
Of course, the first one being Scanners,
Yeah.
and the second
Oh,
one being
God.
Maniac.
Scanners also has an awesome box art.
Scanners
to it.
has an amazing box art too, with I think Michael Ironside with his eyes rolled up inside his head.
And then, like his hair is going
and
all
his
over
hair
the
all
place.
over the place, going fucking crazy. Yes, that was a great one too. Again, like it just seems like horror box art sticks out more than any other genre.
Yeah.
I guess, in my
does.
opinion, I guess because of the trappings of the genre, but it's like I can't action movies. I just think of there's a dude. He has a gun, or there's a dude with a weapon, and he has a sense of purpose in his eyes.
Yeah, if it
That's
was those,
every action cover
if it
from
was
the
those
80s.
action cover, if it was the action guys, if it was Schwarzenegger, if it was Stallone, if it was Chuck Norris, if it was not Steven Seagal because he never showed enough skin to show that he had any kind of muscle definition because he didn't. But if Van Damme, Van Damme, I think his movies were less, but he also he was tail end of the 80s was going into most of his well-known stuff was in the 90s or late 80s.
I heard somewhere he was actually supposed to be the guy in the Predator suit in Predator, and there was like, I'm not doing this. And then,
Yeah.
There was also the sci-fi, especially the sci-fi horror, because you have what is it? Critters, I guess you could consider that sci-fi horror. Future Kill. Have you ever seen Future Kill?
No.
Jay looks like he's seen Future Kill.
The Critters
I
does
have
come to
lived.
mind.
I have lived long enough to one, have seen Future Kill, and then two, randomly someone 25 years later asked me if I had seen Future Kill. I've lived long enough.
Yeah.
I can die now.
Yeah.
This
God
box,
take
this
me.
box art does not represent what this movie
Oh,
is.
Jesus Christ.
That looks more like what Space Mutiny is.
But yeah, with the action movies, it was mostly especially if it was Schwarzenegger and Stallone were the big ones. If it were
Right.
those two, it was them
On the cover.
it was them on the cover, probably holding a gun in some way.
Well, you had some of the ninja movies where they would have a katana or stuff
Yeah.
like that. There was something like there was a lot of tropes to that. I think also with horror, depending on where you went with the horror, you have wildly different
Yeah.
covers.
yeah.
Like you could boil
They
it
had
down
the
to the
most
monster
variety.
on the cover, but then what is that monster
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah,
A good-
like Twice Dead.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. We're to the point where
We're to
Where
the
we're getting,
point
super-
we're to
Yeah,
the point
yeah.
where Jody is now showing us all of the horror movies he's seen.
yeah.
And then reminding me that I've seen Future Kill.
Yeah. I think a good to kind of put a cap on action movies, I think a good one is Die Hard.
Yeah.
Die Hard's really good.
Because you see, it has Bruce Willis's face, but it's
Right.
kind of more faded into the background, and you see the
Nakatomi Plaza.
Nakatomi Plaza. So it really is like, oh Jesus, cool. What is going on with this?
Like another thing too, real quick to compare is like the box art for action movies, like especially the really generic. Like I'm gonna make people angry by saying Chuck Norris and generic, but hear me out. There were
Chuck Norris became a meme. Chuck Norris movies are not actually good.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Nobody watches Chuck Norris.
The
movies
box
because
art
they are
for a
quality
lot of those movies, like Mission USA or whatever,
Delta Force.
Invasion USA, Delta Force. Though they did not try.
Yeah.
They did not try at all. The box art on all those are fucking awful. Enter the Ninja and Enter the Ninja 3 because there was no 2.
Yeah. But yeah.
What was the one? If Red Letter Media did it. What was the one where like the ninjas on the golf course murdering people?
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
Was that the Ninja 3 the Domination?
No, that was another series of ninja movies that were made by a Swedish film company, and there's just a bunch of white dudes with like bandanas that say ninja on them. It's really terrible.
Yeah. But let me see.
The movie Blood Debts has the best ending in cinematic history.
It does.
We needed to fill the air.
We are really getting off
no
topic.
one was saying anything, so I
Well,
said
you
the
could
first thing
always
that came to my
cut.
head.
Well, you could always cut this.
Oh yeah, you're right. Fuck. I should have thought of that. Now I have to include the blood debts part.
Whenever
I'm honor bound because I have a blood debt.
You can cut all this out, but just whenever we're ready to wrap it up, I actually have a way to us.
Okay, okay.
Go for it. Go for it, man.
So, Ray? Yeah. So, something that is kind of lost nowadays because you really don't go and rent movies from anywhere is this. I don't know what I want to watch, but I'm gonna go look around and whatever pops out at me, I will rent that. And sometimes you got gold, and sometimes it was a big dud, and sometimes it was accidentally softcore porn, and you got in trouble.
I accidentally wandered into the porn section of that store that had the wood paneling.
Wow.
And so I'm just in there, and I walked past this curtain, and I literally couldn't understand any of the things that were up there.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember a great hand reaching out from the curtain and grabbing me on my shoulder blade and yanking me vigorously back into the regular store.
I was sold on Phantom of the Paradise because a friend of mine told me a lie that it was the sequel to Kiss Meets Phantom of the Park.
I don't know whether to thank your friend or damn your friend. Like that, I wouldn't know.
But
I just wouldn't.
And I think you get something similar with like streaming services where you just browse through it, but I think that like the physical act of like walking around a store,
shopping
just
around
feels different.
Yeah, you have tactile things you can pick up and look at and turn
because
around.
oftentimes it's just I'm for some reason I don't ever remember feeling overwhelmed in a video store, but whenever I look on like a streaming service and I'm trying to find, I don't know what to watch, because. And I think some of it is also like I'm not leading myself, whatever the algorithm has chosen to show me.
And you're also not looking at the whole selection at once. When you're in a video store, you only have your eyes in front of you.
Just something that just popped in my head. I just realized when I'm at home and I'm looking through stuff to watch, like I stand up and I pace.
Oh wow!
Right.
I just didn't. I had never really thought about that till you mentioned. I wonder
that makes sense.
I wonder if that goes back to the videos.
That
It
makes
might
sense.
be, and hopefully that makes it easier because oftentimes I have big trouble just
I do too.
finding
Terrible.
something on a streaming service to watch unless I have it in my brain. I'm going to watch this one thing. But I think again, like that physical act of like actually going out and doing it, that kind of ritual, so to speak.
Hunter gatherer.
Yeah, we've kind of lost that, and I think that's why. I don't know why. I don't know where I was really going with this, but it's an interesting thing to think about how things have changed.
Yeah,
like we do have it is really cool to. I want to watch a movie. I'm just going to sit down and put on my PS4 and click on this streaming service and watch something.
Would you say we've replaced we've added physical convenience with a kind of mental inconvenience?
I mean, yeah, possibly.
It does feel that way.
But like I said, I often feel overwhelmed with a thing, and I don't ever remember it was more like a sense of wonder. Even when I was like older and was going to like Blockbusters and shit like that, it was like, okay, I can rent literally anything here.
Right.
Well, let's go see what they have.
Yeah.
You know, okay, here's the action stuff. Let me check some of this. Oh, they actually have an anime section. Let me go check and see what.
Yeah,
they
as
have over
limited
here.
as our streaming options are, I think a lot of it also has to do with, like, as far as the overwhelming aspect of it, is that there were only so many things to look at that were in the new release section. There were only so many things to look at the horror section and for everything else,
Yeah.
because they had a finite amount of whatever, and it didn't just keep going on and
Yeah.
on and on, and it wasn't like, you know, you could walk through a door and there was another video store with other options, which is what the streaming service kind of offers you.
Yeah, it's like I'll go, okay, let me see what Hulu has. Okay, they don't have anything new, nothing sticking out to me. Let me go to the Amazon Prime. Okay, the Amazon Prime doesn't have anything.
And also in the back of your head, eventually, like the store's got to close.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, like, even if it's hours away, they're still in the back of your head.
Yeah.
It's
At some
like,
point,
I've got a limited
you've
amount
got
of
to
time
leave
here.
Or
at
if for
some
me,
point.
it's like, okay, I'm just walking around, and these people are having to deal with me just being in the
Yeah.
store.
Yeah.
So like, I have to leave eventually.
It's gotten, for me, and I don't want to get on too long of a tangent, but for me, I have to use Just Watch,
yeah.
which is a website that you go to and you can be like, what horror movies are on Netflix? What horror movies are on Hulu, AMC Plus? What action movies are on Netflix? And it'll show me all of them in one section, and not give me like a fucking like 14 different breakdowns of
Yeah.
new to you, recommended, sci-fi horror, comedy horror. Just give me all the fucking horror movies.
So, and this is also so that I miss from video stores. It's like I could walk around a video store and I would just look at the box art, and then I had the blurb on the back.
Yep.
I didn't have a fucking trailer playing.
Yes.
Every single fucking time.
Or Rotten Tomato score.
I hate that so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I do not miss about not having about Netflix right
Yeah.
now, is that I cannot just sit there and read the blurb. A fucking trailer or a scene
Prime
from the
does
movie
it
has.
too.
Well, Prime you can turn it off. I've
Can
turned it
you?
off on Prime.
I didn't know you could turn it off.
Sometimes it gets turned back on, but I've been able to, I can't remember how, but you fiddle around with it.
I gotta figure that shit
Fiddle
out.
around with it,
Yeah.
you can, because my Prime does not do it anymore.
Right.
And maybe Netflix you can turn it off now, but like it's so annoying. And again, these are all like, this is first world problems. We're
Right,
just
right,
complaining.
right,
We're
right.
old men complaining
Yes.
about
Yelling at the sun.
back in my day.
Yes.
It wasn't it. I was with it, and then it became something different, and now I'm no longer with it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is anymore. Thank you, Grandpa Simpson. That was a bastardized version of that. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this. Is
I think this was a really fun, like, nostalgia trip mostly, because
we just this whole thing was just us injecting nostalgia in our brain.
because much like, you know, movie posters of nowadays, even DVD covers also go to a very lazy.
Well, it's so much of a thing that, like, you know, they'll put out a DVD or a Blu-ray in a case that has a special cover, and like
Right.
that is a thing that they'll have a section of
Right.
in Walmart to draw your eye, because you know most of the stuff doesn't do that anymore.
No, definitely not.
So yeah.
Well, thank you for.
Oh, I found out the Best Buy in D'Iberville still has Blu-rays and DVDs.
Oh, nice.
So I was very surprised about that.
That's very
when I
cool.
went there, because I thought that they were all getting rid of them.
I will say, Game Exchange is fucking awesome for.
Yeah, I went there the other day and was looking around at their DVD selection. I almost bought some things, but I decided not
The
to.
one in Mobile has a bigger selection of DVDs than the one that in the Iberville.
Is there multiple ones in Mobile? Because
I think there's only one.
and I don't remember there being a whole lot of DVDs there. But I also didn't look at the DVDs.
It's on Airport, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's probably, yeah. Well, they have. Okay. Anyway,
We'll talk about it off
yeah,
mic.
yeah. We'll talk about it off mic. All right. Well, if you've, I hope you've enjoyed listening to us talk about movie box arts and video game box arts. If you want to listen to me talk about movies, you can check out Fearology. It's a show on Spotify. I might eventually. I might have an episode sometime soon. But no promises. Yeah, check it out. Fearology. Brady, give us a show.
Whiskey and Wrestling. It's a show where our friends Jason Holder and Michael Hill lament about the current state of wrestling and drown their sorrows at the bottom of a bottle of whiskey. So check them out if that sounds interesting to you. Wherever podcasts are minted is what we'll go with today.
Jay, give us the rest of all of them.
All of them? All right. Bearded Drums, Stephen Nelson II and our friend Jarrett Taylor talk about all things drumming from gear to gigs, along with live performances performed both on the show and on YouTube, available on all major podcasting networks. We got Silence Your Cell Phones, Jarrett Hubbard, and Brian McKnight. I had to pick one that was just out of the fucking order. There we go. Kevin Shelton, actually, talk about newer movies along with their views on movies and TV shows. Available sometimes on YouTube, but on all major podcasting avenues. The Completed Podcast, Christopher Vega, Brandon Scott Tanner, and Brandon Smith talking about Magic the Gathering from the deck metas, which is something that Ethan said last weekend, because it sounds like death lettuce, but it's like deck metas. So I don't know, but there you go. But deck metas in the competitive Magic scene, along with tips and tricks about what you're doing when you're on the competitive scene, along with interviews with some of the best Magic players going in the competitive scene. Again, that is the Completed Podcast, available at least on Spotify and I believe on several other podcasting networks. McNarb Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. For all of your gaming needs in the South Mississippi area, come to McNarb Gaming in Goshen, Mississippi. Owned, operated, and commanded from on high by the God Emperor of Gaming himself, Cameron Spanier. One of the best places to shop if you're into. They have a wonderful paint sale going on, which by the time this thing airs, it'll already be over. So how dare you not have time machines?
And dice sale too.
And a dice sale that is still going on right now. I picked up some sweet hand-poured dice in what looked like 1985 VHS cassettes. So a little thing to tie us back to what we've been talking about today. Am I missing anyone?
I don't think so.
It sounds about right to me. We need to do this next time, but with Ethan and make him do all of them.
Yeah, and then we just walk out of the room.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
great.
hopefully he doesn't hear this and is prepared.
Yeah.
He's not going to listen to this.
Yeah.
You know why, right?
Why?
I've discovered the power of the breeding pen.
All
Yeah.
jokes go in threes, folks. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
For travelers on the omnibus, I've been J to the O to the D to the Y.
I've just been James McCarthy.
I'm MC Brady, and I came to say I'm not good at this.
You came to say that you weren't good at this. What the fuck?
I'm not good. Yeah.
And I'm Ethan Skinwell, and thank you very much for coming out to our show. Next week, we're going to be going to a deserted island, and we're going to pick our top 5 board games. It's a chalkboard, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ethan Skinwell.
Thanks, Homestar Runner.
There you go.
Welcome to the internet.
You're still on. I haven't pushed the button yet.
The button. The red shiny button. The candy-like button. It is not. I'm insane.
Are you stroking?